Forgiveness is when we go inside. I usually go inside and I imagine that person and I imagine what they did, and I allow myself to understand that it wasn't right, and I don't have to say it's okay. But I do get to let them off the hook in my mind and let them go. So, Corey asked me what forgiveness means to me, and I think that this is hard. For talking, I have to be able to use my brain, and I can't think about where the mic stand is. I think when I choose not to forgive, or when I don't realize that I'm not forgiving, it's sort of an excuse to avoid my own feelings about a situation. For example, if, in an abusive situation, when I chose not to forgive or decided, or didn't even decide, but just didn't forgive, I think there was an ounce of, I thought it was healing me. I thought if I was, angry enough about it and about the injustice of it all, that I was, giving myself a gift of, being angry about it and not forgiving. And yes, like T.D. Jakes said, that was T.D. Jakes, wasn't it? No? Yeah. Yeah, he's so dope. I felt like I was protecting myself also from it happening again. If I'm angry enough, and if I'm hard enough, and if I'm, mad enough at this person, that, I'm going to keep it from happening again. And also, what happens when we do forgive? We have to let the pain go. And the pain is kind of like a companion. It kind of becomes a friend or an excuse to avoid whatever's left. There's a lot that's left when you forgive, or for me, I was afraid to forgive because I thought forgiving would just leave me alone. Then I'm just left with myself. And I think another thing too, that forgiveness means to me is sort of you're facing the feelings and the responsibility. If I hold a grudge against someone, which, as we all sort of raise our hands, there's people right now that I could think of that, or situations I can think of right now where I wasn't forgiving. And holding a grudge against this person sort of voided the responsibility that I have to approach them and to actually deal with it responsibly and lovingly, right? So not in every situation, we're not always supposed to go back to the person, because sometimes that's dangerous. I mean, it's not always safe to go back to the person and tell them that you forgive them. Let's be real. It's sometimes you're like, peace, I will forgive you over here, far away, which is totally fine. And I think that's where it gets confusing. Sometimes we think forgiving means we have to be friends with that person, we have to trust that person, we have to say what they did is okay. And that's crap. That's not true. You don't have to ever say that it's okay. It wasn't okay. It was wrong. It was wrong. It was ugly. It was not okay. It was what is wrong with the world. But also I came in at the end of the meditation, but also what she said, where that action that came from them also came from their own hurt and their own misunderstanding in their own mind, or self-hatred, or hurt inside of them. And so we can understand it from that perspective. So it doesn't mean that they as a human are wrong in the world. It just means, what they've decided to harbor inside and what they're doing is wrong. And it also, it doesn't make it okay. Even saying, it came from they're wrong, which I was so grateful that she said that, because it helps me to forgive, to think about it coming from someone else's pain. Because being hurt, it just feels like they're doing it to you. You're inside your own head and your own body, so you're like, man, this sucks. They're doing it to me. They're abusing me. I'm hurting. How could they do that to me? They don't care. Well, yeah, they usually don't care. Or maybe someone does care. I'm covering a broad range of situations here. But it's there's people who are hurting actively are so concentrated on their own pain that it's so not even about you. It's about, they're lost in their cloud of pain most of the time. And then sometimes it's just a friend that does something shitty, and it's they aren't lost in a cloud, they just did something that they regret, and you let it go, and then you get the benefit of having that person in your life. And I think that, I think what forgiveness it can get confusing if you feel like you have to mean it's okay to forgive, or you have to mean all wrong or all right. If this makes this person all wrong, well, that's not true. Or it makes them all right, and that's not true either. It's sort of like when you forgive, you're letting that person go, and you're facing the responsibility. I have to then be responsible for drawing my own boundaries. Sometimes forgiveness, we harbor unforgiveness because we don't know how to make a healthy boundary. And so we just want to stay mad at that person instead of taking responsibility and caring for ourselves and doing what we need to do to put ourselves in a safe place. And it's not always easy, and I respect that. I'm going through that. But I think that, forgiveness is when we go inside. I usually go inside and I imagine that person and I imagine what they did. And I allow myself to understand that it wasn't right. And I don't have to say it's okay. But I do get to let them off the hook in my mind and let them go. And sometimes I even imagine we're standing somewhere open and there's sunlight on me and there's sunlight on this person. And I just watch them in light move on. They're okay. They don't need me to be mad at them. They don't need me to hate them. They just need to go from me out. And so I attach sort of that action or whatever they did to an image of them and just let them go. Even if that person's still in my life, I have to let them go. Even if they're going to be with me, just let that action go and let that feeling and all these attachments I made to the wrongness of it all go. And so there's a lot of visual things that I do, or I'll imagine their face and just say the words, I forgive you, or I forgive this person, and then I'll say their name, I forgive them. I forgive them. Sometimes I might pray for them, or I might say, God, I pray that you would heal the wound in them that brought this pain. It doesn't mean I want to be around that person. It doesn't mean I want them, if it's something severe, it doesn't mean I trust them, or it doesn't mean I need them in my life. And if you can understand that you can forgive and free yourself from the anxiety and the disease, frankly, because unforgiveness poisons our body scientifically and physically. On a physical, chemical level, it poisons your body. There are some doctors that will ask you on the medical form, where are you hurting? What drugs do you take? Do you harbor unforgiveness? And I've seen doctors where if you say yes, they say, I can't help you. Because it's a disease that you are allowing in your body. So if you can offer yourself that gift of forgiving the person, don't be afraid of the empty space. If you feel like forgiving someone is leaving empty space because you're parting from all of the yuck that's been taking up that space, you're afraid of facing yourself, don't be afraid. The space isn't empty. It's filled with you. And you are so well crafted and so filled with an abundant array of beautiful things that when you forgive and let that go, you're allowed to come to the surface. And if you don't love yourself, we all come to places sometimes where we don't love ourselves and we don't want to see what's going to come up. But you are beautiful and lovely and loved. And as you treat yourself as if you love yourself, perhaps you will learn to love yourself. And when you let yourself forgive and there's that empty space, it's not empty, it's filled, and then you can kind of let that person go. It changes your actions. It makes me be more responsible for my behavior. I can't blame everything on them anymore. I can't blame the consequences. There's consequences when we get hurt, right? Shit happens, and then there's physical things we have to pick up and be left with. I have physical consequences I still carry to this day. And it would be easier for me to harbor anger against these people. But I won't be able to live, and they don't care. They're off in some other world, probably still being hurt, unfortunately. So I pray for the people they're with, because God only knows. But I don't know if this is making any sense, and I hope that it is, and I hope that you're able to hear and receive something. If you receive nothing else, receive permission to let go of the fear of whatever's left when you do forgive. There's an exchange that goes on, and trust that every spiritual teacher, every doctor, every science experiment or anything that says we have to forgive, trust that that's a real thing and that you're not protecting yourself by hanging on to it. You're actually letting them win. And they don't really need to win in that situation. Right? You need to win. So, I'm sending a blessing to you from my heart that you will feel permission inside to forgive, and that you will feel an absence of all fear in the presence of love and truth, and that you'll find yourself in a new freedom as you let that person go. Be blessed.